More than 60,000 people move to Metro Atlanta every single year, and I see a lot of them making the same avoidable mistakes. So today, we're going to look at the biggest mistakes people make when moving to Atlanta. Not knowing where the best routes are, choosing the wrong suburb for the wrong reasons, searching the wrong way, and the biggest mistake is the one that can cost you the most money and the most regret. My name's Joel, I'm a local realtor here in Metro Atlanta, and I help people relocate here all the time. Let's get into it. The first mistake is thinking Atlanta is one thing. Because people say, we're moving to Atlanta, as if that tells you anything. Metro Atlanta is enormous, and the lifestyle changes dramatically depending on where you land. Sandy Springs is not Woodstock. Sandy Springs is much more urban, more city-centric, and much more tied into Atlanta itself. Woodstock is much more suburban, more park-oriented, and much more about that North Metro lifestyle. Alpharetta is not Cartersville. Alpharetta is denser, more polished, and much more tied into that 400 corridor and tech job ecosystem. Cartersville is way farther out, more rural, more spread out, and much more tied into factories and manufacturing and small town space. Those are completely different lives. That's why moving to Atlanta is not one decision. It's really a series of decisions about commute, pace, budget, schools, neighborhood feel, and what kind of daily life you actually want. If you miss all of that at the beginning, the rest of your search gets harder real fast. Now, once people realize that Metro Atlanta is much more complicated than they thought, the next mistake shows up pretty quickly. This is one of the most common mistakes by far. People look at the map, see 15, 20 miles and think, that doesn't seem that bad. Around Atlanta, that could be a huge mistake. The city's recent census estimate puts average commute time at 26.5 minutes, and TomTom says Atlanta drivers lost about 61 hours to rush hour traffic in 2025. But honestly, the more useful part is this. Around here, miles do not tell the story. Corridors tell the story. You need to know your main lines of transportation: 75, 575, 400, 85, 285, 20, 120. Those roads shape life way more than people realize. For example, if you're working in Buckhead and you think being close to 75 is going to be enough, you need to be careful. A lot of the time, 400 is going to be a much better route, especially if you work on the east side of Buckhead, because 75 is going to drop you into the west side of the city, and then you're fighting your way across in congestion block by block by block. Same thing with airport access. If you need frequent access to Hartsfield for work, being close to 75 is usually a much better setup than being close to 400 or 85. Off 75, you can use 285 to get around the west side of the city and get there a lot more cleanly. Off 400 or 85, you're much more likely to have to go through Atlanta, and that is not going to be fun. So don't think in terms of distance only, think in terms of routine. Where do you need to get to most often? Which corridor is going to get you there? And what part of the city are you actually trying to access? Because a great house on the wrong route can become a daily headache really fast. And once people start trying to fix that, they often make mistake number 3. This is a huge one, especially for out-of-town buyers. People decide they want one city, one county, or one zip code, and then they build their entire search around those lines like they mean more than they actually do. That can make you miss some of the best options, because the truth is, around here, when it comes to the county lines, the city lines, the zip code lines, none of them line up. For example, if you're looking in Woodstock, there are parts of Acworth that are actually in Cherokee County and would work for you just as well. Same school system, same general commercial areas you'd probably be using anyway, but because the mailing address says Acworth, people filter it out and you would never see it. Same with Ball Ground. If you're looking in North Canton, especially in the Creekview High District or the Cherokee High District, there are a lot of homes in Ball Ground that could absolutely work for you. But if Ball Ground is not in your search, you'd never know. Same thing over in Forsyth County. If you're trying to be in South Forsyth, maybe because you want that South Forsyth High or Denmark High school zoning, there's actually a northern section of Alpharetta that is actually in Forsyth County and should absolutely be on your list. That's why I think it's much smarter to search by fit area before you search for city exclusively, because your best option may be one mailing address over from the place that you think you want. Now, if you're trying to figure out which parts of Metro Atlanta actually fit your budget, your commute, your lifestyle, reach out anytime. I help people narrow this stuff down every day. That's often the difference between a frustrating search and a really smart one. All my contact info is on the screen right now and below in the description. Now, let's move to one of the biggest places people get tripped up: school zonings. This one gets a lot of people because in Georgia, school systems are tied to the county lines, not the city lines. So the city name on the mailing address does not automatically tell you the school story. Ackworth is a perfect example. Ackworth stretches across 4 different counties. So if you don't know which county you're in, you really do not know the school situation yet. Same thing with Alpharetta and Johns Creek. Parts of Alpharetta can feed into Johns Creek High School. Parts of Johns Creek can feed into Alpharetta High School. So even when people think they've narrowed it down to one city, the school conversation can still be much more map dependent than maybe they expected. And the second mistake here is treating school ratings like they tell the whole story. Now look, I understand why people start there. You should look at niche.com, you should look at gradeschools.org. Those are great tools, but they are a starting point, not the whole decision. Because culture matters, programs matter, the individual students matter, and the exact zone matters. So yes, use the ratings, but also verify the exact school assignment. Look into the specific programs that matter to your child. And if the schools are a major priority, spend some time researching the actual school community. And if you can, visit the school in person, because a school can look great on paper and still might not be the right fit. And once people start realizing how specific this all gets, the next mistake can happen. This is one of the more expensive mistakes people make, and I see it all the time. A suburb gets talked about a lot, or it has a strong reputation, or everybody online seems to love it, or their friends and family had lived there before, and people start treating that like proof that it must be the right answer. But the most popular suburb is not always the right suburb. Johns Creek is a good example of this. It sounds great, tons of accolades, strong reputation, but can also be very pricey and very quiet and maybe a little boring. And for some people, the real goal is just to be close to all the great stuff in Alpharetta. In those cases, Alpharetta might actually be the better move there. Same thing with Woodstock. A lot of people go there looking for space, but the space is mostly gone now. So if what you really want is elbow room, Canton might be the better option. And even then, that's also fading rapidly. So if you're chasing space hard enough, you may want to be looking in ball ground as well. That's the mistake. People chase the suburb with the strongest reputation instead of the suburb that actually solves the right problem. The question is not what suburb works for most people. The better question is what suburb works best for me. Because if you skip that question, it becomes really easy to buy into everyone else's favorite suburb instead of your own best fit. And the biggest mistake of all usually shows up right here once money gets involved. This is the biggest mistake people make when moving to Atlanta. They do not understand what their money is really paying for. Because around Metro Atlanta, the price differences from one suburb to the next can be dramatic. Sometimes the premium is worth it. Sometimes it really isn't. Take Marietta and Kennesaw. If you're looking in Marietta because you want Cobb County schools, you should also be considering Kennesaw. Same Cobb County school system, but generally about $50,000 less price difference on the home. Same thing with Johns Creek. If you're trying to be in Johns Creek, you should also have parts of Alpharetta and parts of Cumming on the list. You may get the same or even better proximity to what you actually need, but roughly $100,000 to $200,000 less off the home price. And I've seen this play out in real life too. I recently had a client looking in Roswell around the $475 price point, and we found basically the same house in Woodstock for $390. That's the whole point. People see a higher price and it assumes it means better, but better for what? Better commute, better schools, better access, better neighborhood feel, or just a stronger name? Because if you do not understand what the extra money is actually buying you, it is really easy to overpay for the wrong thing. And it works in reverse too. Sometimes buyer gets so focused on value that they go too far out and end up in a place that does not actually fit their lifestyle. So the goal is not to find the cheapest house. It's also not to buy the most expensive suburb that you can justify. It's to understand the trade-off. What are you gaining? What are you giving up? And is the extra money actually buying something that will make your life better? Because this is where people either make a very smart Atlanta move or spend a whole lot of money learning the lesson the hard way. So when you step back and look at all of this together, the biggest mistakes people make when moving to Atlanta are not really random. They are all connected. People do not realize how different these suburbs really are. They do not understand the traffic corridors and how they operate. They search too narrowly. They misunderstand schools. They chase the wrong suburbs, and they do not fully understand what their money is actually buying them. That is how people end up in the wrong place. Not because the house is bad, not because the suburb is bad, but because the fit is wrong. And that is really the goal here. Not to find the best suburb, not to move to the hottest area, not to buy the most house. The goal is to understand the trade-offs well enough to choose the place that actually fits your life. If you get that right, Metro Atlanta is an incredible place to live. If you're trying to figure out where in Atlanta actually makes sense for you, reach out anytime. I help people relocate here every day, and I'd be happy to help you narrow it down as well. There is a menu of ways that you can take the next step. Or if you're not ready for any of that, just keep watching some more videos. I'll see you in the next one.